Our next speaker, I think, is you yourself, Claudette. Can I introduce a person that don't need any introduction? Claudette is one of our first and founding members of Retina South Africa. She actually told me a little bit earlier, about 2 weeks ago, about finding the minutes of the very first meeting of Retina South Africa. She still has those documents with her. And she could tell me who was at the meeting. And she herself, of course, was there. And, uh, and she is not only our collective memory of the organization, she is our head of science. And I think Claudette will allow me to say that I think of a patient advocate, you must be one of the most knowledgeable people in the world on retinal conditions. And she's also a trained peer counselor. So often when you are diagnosed and you go through having had a chat with our social workers, you would often be referred back to Claudette, who will talk to you from the side of a person that actually has lived this experience, have lived many years, over 50 years, with a diagnosis of a retinal condition. And I think her contribution today in telling us the exciting news that has been that's coming out from the retinal world will be just so greatly appreciated by all of us. But I think more than that, we want to thank you, Claudette, for your many years of service, and we want to listen and just marvel at your wonderful knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you, Marisa, and I hope they can read and my slides are up. Wow, so thank you for that great introduction, and I'm going to be as fast as I can, but just to preface it, that there's anything that you want, please, my email address is claudette@retinasa.org.za, or if you contact the head office, they'll put you in touch with me, and I hope you're going to find some of the answers to what you need to know. Next slide, please. So I want to tell you, talking about AI, it depends which AI. I only do dabble between Copilot and ChatGPT, but I'm sure if I'd gone to Claude, he would have got other answers. The number of active clinical trials in phase 1 to 3, Copilot says between 60 and 80, and ChatGPT says between 90 and 20. If you want to know about your specific condition, please go and look at these trusted sites: fightingblindness.org, clinicaltrials.gov, euclinicaltrials.eu, or hra.nhs.uk. And for those of you who can read, you'll see on the slide, I have got all the lists of current conditions that are in clinical trials, and I'll read them very quickly: chromatopsia, AMD, Batten's disease, BCD, Best disease, choroideremia, the various types of LCA, the RP, different types, Stargardt disease, Usher syndrome, and of course, Cone-Rod. Next slide, please. So let's have a look at the most advanced clinical trials. John mentioned about the FDA, and I loved his description of it. It has been, but the good news is that things are starting to move. Phase 3 is the final of 3 phases that these people who are trying to develop these treatments have to go through with tremendous oversight, which is good because it means that people won't die if they have a treatment, but they are sometimes overzealous. But these are the 6. The first 3 are subretinal, which is mostly for gene therapy. So Ocugen has got the OCU400, which is for RP. And it's great because it's looking not at the specific gene that's causing the RP, it's looking at the RN2E3, which is a master regulator. So it's going to be for various kinds of genes, not only for a specific gene mutation, and that is a gene therapy. Then Myra have got a fantastic, the Lumious trial for X-linked RP, and that's also in a gene therapy. Then Reflection Bio have got one for BCD, which is a very rare disease. I won't spend time on that. Sepal Bio are looking for at a great intervention, which is an antisense oligonucleotide, which is not changing the gene. I think of it as a band-aid for gene therapy because it goes to the RNA, which is more accessible because the DNA, of course, is in the nucleus of the cell, where the RNA is more accessible to intervention. And it's like a band-aid that covers the area where there is a mutation. And even though there might be a slightly smaller protein that is produced from that recipe, it is still a working copy of the gene. And that's an intravitreal, which is great because we know our doctors, particularly in South Africa, have got a lot of experience with AMD of injecting into the vitrea. Then we've got NAC, which is an antioxidant, which is my favorite. I love NAC because I actually take it and it's helped to stabilize my vision. Alkeus are doing a clinical trial in phase 3 for Stargardt's. It's an ABCA modifier, and the project is the Guild Retinal, and it is a tablet which will be taken every day, and that is the North Star. Next slide, please. So let's look at the USA, the EMA, and I know the UK as well, have a designation where gene therapies can be, not only gene therapies, but all treatments can be fast-tracked, either by an orphan drug status or advanced therapy medical product or special status. And we know that the RQ400, the NR2E3 has been fast-tracked, the 410ST, but also by Ocugen, that's an ABCA4 modifier, and that is being fast-tracked, and that'll probably be for other mutations that cause Stargardt's other than just only the ABCA4, which of course is the most common. Then Atsena have got a gene therapy for retinoschisis, which is really looking very promising. Alkeus have got the Guild Retinal that we've spoken about. Ultevursen, and we've just had notice yesterday, in fact, Ultevursen is now finished recruiting for its phase 2B for the Usher's 2A, which is for Usher's and RP, and that's also an AON intervention. Then Aldehera has got an ADX, which relies on methotrexate, which modulates the misfolded RP proteins. This is interesting. I always like to explain misfolded proteins as your suitcase that you try to pack at the end of your holiday with all the clothes that came in the suitcase, because they're so dirty and misfolded, you can't close your suitcase. So that's what misfolded proteins are. They don't fit into the space, they overflow, they don't work, and they cause extensive damage. And that ADX2190 is an intraretinal condition. Then we've also got another Ocugen. Ocugen, as you see, is very prominent in a lot of treatments, and that's a gene therapy for geographic atrophy, which is the advanced stage of AMD. Next slide, please. So let's look at, I love this one. This is gene therapy at its best for Stargardt. It's the Guardian 3. It's a phase 2/3 clinical trial. It's a gene therapy, and it looks at multiple pathways. So it looks at the structural and the functional pathways. The lipofuscin accumulation in the trial was actually phased by up to 50%, which is really significant. It minimizes oxidative stress, there's no inflammation, and it also looks at the complement pathway. So it's certainly going to have applications then for AMD, which is definitely a complement pathway. A lot of the AMD is linked to complement pathway. And it also looks at cell survival pathways. So also it's going to probably be for other types of gene other than the ABCA4. And in the trial, there was a visual acuity gain of 6 letters on the EDTRS chart. There are different charts. You normally, in South Africa, we use Snellen. And also, there's no adverse events. In some forms of the modifier treatments where you take a systemic treatment, a tablet to slow the buildup of lipofuscin in the cell. You sometimes get loss of night vision, but this doesn't happen. Next slide, please. So let's look at the summary. In America, UK, and Europe, there are over 100 active clinical trials, and around 30 of those are in phase 2 or later. And as we know, we have certainly a cutback of funding to the FDA, which has actually forced them to actually sometimes allow for phase 2 and 3 to be combined, or phase 3 and a pivotal trial. So we all know that they are going to happen faster than they were in the past. Certainly not 10 years, John, we'll be happy to say, but around 10 of these are close to registration. Next slide, please. So there are other researchers to watch in the UK. They have a wonderful consortium called the UK Inherited Retinal Dystrophy Consortium. They're looking at gene therapies for RP Stargardt's, Usher syndrome, and choroideremia. They're also looking at RNA therapies, AON, and optogenetics. And optogenetics, as John explained, is conferring light sensitivity onto other cells other than photoreceptors in the retina that will carry that visual information in a code to the brain, which is where you actually see. Australia are looking at the Prima implant, which John discussed. It's a hard implant, which they've now resurrected with microchips, tiny, tiny ones, and also look at gene therapies. Japan is a global leader in neural regeneration, including RPE. China is something to watch. We know that China is making inroads in every sphere, including research, because they're investing heavily in gene therapy, stem cells, AI, and genome editing. Thank you. Next slide, please. So close to registration, Ocugen, the 410 for RP, which is gene agnostic. That's very close. The Botovec for XLRP, this is a Mara product. Interestingly enough, in the trial, the phase 3 trial, the treatment did not meet its primal endpoint, which was the maze, and the FDA actually turned it down, and Mira actually challenged the FDA because it did so well in the other endpoints, and they now filed for a biologic medicine. So we're probably going to see that very quickly. Opus have got a gene therapy for LCA5. That's going to be very, very soon. Eli Lilly, and I know there are people in the audience who are really interested in this one for LCA4. It's had received special status, and we know with LCA4 that we need to intervene with the children very early. They've done it successfully, and Dr. Michaelides from the UK has done it, and very successful. The children have to have gene therapy because by the age of 4, it's too late. Ocugen, again, we spoke about that one. That's for Stargardt's and ABCA4 and other probably gene. And remember, when we talk about ABCA4, we usually are including cone rod. So if you haven't got well, we'll get to that now about getting a gene. John spoke about it as well, getting a genetic diagnosis. And then the Tinlarebant, which is the application has already been submitted. And this is a systemic, it's a tablet to slow down the lipofuscin build-up in ABCA4, and it looking very good. And as we spoke about the NAC, and I'm a great fan of antioxidants, which actually possibly affect the gene expression. And in my case, it certainly has slowed the rate of my degeneration. Next slide, please. So John mentioned stem cells, and I actually asked him, but people think that stem cells are around the corner. Please don't go herring off to India or China or anywhere, because they're not ready yet. Sumitomo are very interested, very advanced. They're doing a retinal sheet, which is a subretinal. They're actually producing these subretinal sheets outside of the retina and then introducing them into the retina. And they're used in induced pluripotent stem cells. It's going to be gene agnostic. And they are the leaders because Yamamaka himself, a very renowned researcher in Japan, actually developed induced pluripotent stem cells and got the Nobel Prize for it in 2012. JSAT have been trying with their progenitors for many years. They thought their progenitor cells would turn into photoreceptors, and they don't. But what they seem to do is sustain the health of the photoreceptors, probably using growth factors, but it does reduce inflammation, and there's got very good safety and vision improvement. Blue Rock are also growing individual photoreceptors, which is quite mind-boggling when you think of the size of a photoreceptor, which they will connect to bipolar cells, and this is a replacement therapy. Next slide, please. The challenges. Are the patients ready? Well, what we need is a good clinical diagnosis, and if you don't have one, then you need to find an ophthalmologist who can give you one. But sometimes they can't give you a specific diagnosis, and you do need a genetic diagnosis. And every person who has an inherited retinal degeneration should have a genetic diagnosis. We have a register at Retina South Africa, and you should be on that register. You should also be on myretinatracker.org, which allows researchers to find you. And you all need to become advocates. And I am surprised every week at how little our patients know about their disease. If you can't advocate for yourself, we can't advocate for every single patient at an individual level, but we can help you. But you need to equip yourself with knowledge. Clinical expertise. We know that South African ophthalmologists can do intraretinal injections probably with their eyes closed because of wet AMD, but subretinal injection expertise is a different story altogether. Then the therapies have to be registered. And once they're registered in America or in England, we then have to bring that registration to South Africa. And we're going to need every single patient to help us because we have to go and knock on doors and write angry emails. And you know, with the HIV, the patients took to the streets before the government actually listened to them. And if we have to do that, we'll do that as well. And then once we have those therapies registered, we have to ensure that everybody has access to that therapy, not only the private patients, but also the patients in the state. Next slide, please. So the dream of treating retinal sight loss is finally becoming a reality. While no single therapy will cure every condition, we are finally entering an era where precision medicine that John spoke about and amazing advances are finally offering hope for treatment and cures. These advances are transforming what was once considered impossible to be imminent. And people like Prof. Marshall and many others and we've devoted our energy, our careers, and in fact our lives to this cause. And it's now up to you, the new generation, to take this progress to its fantastic conclusion, the miracle of restoring sight to the blind. Thank you very much. I'm done.
Is there any questions for Claudette from the floor? We will also allow, in Claudette's case, one question from the floor and one question online, and the rest, please, also via email or post them on the WhatsApp group. No questions. Claudette, you have answered every single question. So thank you very, very much.